This is Get Sellers Calling You, and I'm Beatty Carmichael. Learn more at our website at getsellerscallingyou.com. Well, hi, I'm Beatty Carmichael, and welcome back to the Get Sellers Calling You Realtor podcast. And I'm just real excited about today's call because I get to interview another wonderful set of agents with an amazing story, and actually clients of ours, Tom and Nancy Cleppe from Franklin, Tennessee. And I'm just really excited about today's call because I was able to speak with Tom and Nancy earlier. They have just a really neat business and a neater story. And I really wanted you guys to hear it. So Tom and Nancy, how are you guys doing?
Doing great, Beatty. How are you?
I am very blessed.
We're lucky as well, blessed as well.
Well, very good, very good. And I want to talk about those blessings in a moment. So that'll be great. Just also a quick reminder for those who are listening and watching, this is an internet call. So if there are any type of internet interruptions, just please pardon us. Pardon those for that. So Tom and Nancy, I'd love just real quickly, just a little story about your real estate career. I know you're in the Franklin area, but maybe how long have you been selling? Just anything about you guys, just as an introduction of who you guys are.
Nancy looks at me like I should start right away. And then, so Nancy had been in business, in real estate business before I was, 8 years before I got involved in it. And she said to me one day, you should get into real estate. And this is before we were married, actually. And I said, no, I don't want to work weekends. She said, we can build our business where you don't have to work weekends. And so 3 weeks later, I was enrolled in a class. And 6 months or less later, I had my license and we started a team. And so that's 7, 8 years ago now. Okay,
so I got to ask you a question. Do you work weekends?
No, rarely. I shouldn't say no. Obviously, we if necessary, we do.
Okay, cool. Well, so now let me ask you, just for some quantifying purposes, like how many transactions a year do you guys do?
It's not as consistent as we'd like. I want to say that we do 50 units a year, but it's anywhere from 30 to 60 units a year.
Okay, so 30 to 50, maybe 60 on a good year, and rarely work weekends. So, so the typical client that I talk to works 50, 60 hours a week, works weekends. You ask them, hey, how's your weekend? They kind of, with this blank stare or astonished voice, pause in the voice, and they say, what's a weekend, right? So, how do you guys build your business where it's rarely on the weekends? I mean, how do you make that happen?
Well, you've got to be purposeful. The first thing is you've got a time block, and you've got to use your week well, so that your week will fall together and fall within the Monday through Friday business hours. And one of the ways we do that, we put God first, we put family second, and then our real estate business is third. And it seems like doing that, things just kind of fall into place. We work hard during the week. We try to get it all done, and we schedule as much as we can during the office hours. And obviously, we have clients that can't always meet during office hours, and that's when we fall back to weekends or evenings to accommodate them. But it's pretty rare.
I'd love to explore that just a little bit, because as you were talking, Nancy, my mind went back to 2 or 3 other agents I've interviewed. And they all have the same pattern. And I think this is a pattern that's really worth to pull out in terms of setting the parameters. Okay, I like one of my clients. He does 2 to 3 times the volume you guys do, personal production, but he does it differently. So I don't want to make that comparison. But what he does is he works, at the time I was asking him this question, about 35 hours a week. Yeah, no, seriously. And I asked him, how in the world did you do that? He said, well, I structure it. He said, I choose not to work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I choose not to work on the evenings unless I just have to. And I'm willing to give up business if I need to. But he says, when you put those parameters in place, you just fit your business around it.
Right.
And I think a lot of agents never put those parameters in place.
Yeah.
Sounds like you got some monster over there. Boom, boom.
We We have construction going on as well.
Oh, okay. I love it.
A little addition going on.
I thought that was maybe the dog. We were having a fun discussion about the dogs before the call. So, isn't it great? So tell me a little bit. So 30 to 50 transactions a year. You don't work weekends. You set parameters. Tell me a little bit more about your business practice, and most importantly, how do you keep the business going? I don't know if I want to kind of go towards what is it that you're doing that keeps your business? Because I know a lot of folks who would love to have 30 transactions a year and they're working 50, 60 hours a week just trying to get there. But what have you guys found to be the pattern that works for you that keeps you guys going? Is that a fair question to ask?
Yeah, you know, when Nancy and I got into business, or when I got into Nancy's business, she was kind of coasting, for the lack of a better term, and how she was doing her business. It was kind of coming to her by her relationships. And then I come in, and it's like I have a sales and marketing background. It's like, wait a minute, we could be doing this, this, and this to bring customers into us. We can do this, this, and this to set ourselves up so that there's stuff out there that's working without us, kind of deal. And I have it. I keep saying I'm the luckiest guy in the world, because when it comes to contracts and negotiations and closings and whatnot, Nancy's the structured one. She keeps all of that in line. I refer to myself as the guy out front bringing people in, and the guy after the close of the sale that keeps in touch with them so that we get referrals and repeat business from that. So Nancy takes care of all of the middle, and I take care of the beginning and the end. If you're a single agent, that would be single agent with my capacity, that would be difficult.
I totally get it. So, so you're more behind the scenes, Nancy, and Tom, you're more in front of the scenes. Is that right?
Until it's time to switch. I'm in front of the scenes up front, and then like we'll go to a listing appointment, get a listing, and they never see me again until closing.
I pretty much take over from there. I handle the listing and get it up and running, and handle all the contract negotiations to get it to closing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we have assistants that help us with those things. But I think the core of our business has always been, and it comes from our relationships with people.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I had a business before Tom joined me, and we do a lot of referral business. I think our first several years together, our business was solely on referral business. And then friends and family. You know, they trust us and love us, and they want their friends to, you know, experience the same trust that they have with us. So whether they use us for a transaction or not, they feel comfortable referring their friends to us.
So how big of a group are we talking about with this, your relationships?
Oh, wow.
There's 1,400 people in our database, and we consider 200 of them close. We have them broken down into advocate A, B, and C, depending on if they're a client, if they're just friends with referrals, and if they're local.
Okay. And then what do you guys do to nurture that? I'm assuming you do something. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do a couple of things.
We don't do enough, it seems like sometimes, and there's other people that say we do too much. So we have events. We're always doing client events to keep people, to get as many touches at once makes a lot of sense to us. And of course, everybody appreciates a good party kind of deal. We also do community outreach stuff where we're giving away. We have like an ice cream sundae where and this is a Sunday event, where we'll give away ice cream at the local custard store, and we publicize it. Then anybody who comes in gets to sample the ice cream, obviously, and then we get to shake hands with people that are not necessarily in our database or weren't at that point. And we're making fundraisers and
for the local fire department, and we've also raised money for a couple other organizations by giving away things and asking people to donate when they come. Like we gave out pumpkins last year at a pumpkin patch. We gave a pumpkin to everybody that came, whether they donated or not. But then we had a little jar set up for donations, and most people donated.
Neat. So tell me how, because one of the things that we talk about, especially like with a geographic area, to do fundraising events or some sort of civic community event where you get the people into a common spot. You're the civic champion, so to speak, of that cause, and then you get a chance to meet them. Guide me through, if you would. Let's take one of these fundraisers that you do. What's kind of the process? How do you if you just kind of give me a short synopsis of the process, and most importantly, how it's structured so that you interact with the people, if you're interacting at all. Does that make sense?
Farm market was probably our biggest.
So I guess, baby, when I was a kid, a delinquent, I might add, I had a lot of parties, right? And it was just a matter of putting ourselves out there. You just create the event and invite people to come. And those people that came had a good time, and those people that didn't come heard about it, kind of deal. And so the next time we had one, they wanted to come, and we just kind of promote it that way. The idea is we put the event out there and make sure that everybody knows about it, at least 4 different touches. And if they show, great. If they don't, they kind of miss the event. When they come then, we try to have as much set up prior to the event so that the day of the event, we're not running around cutting watermelons for everybody. There's somebody, either the watermelon's cut or somebody else is doing it. And the more that we have in place for that, then I always heard the term once, Elms Budsman, and not sure exactly what it means, but we're just shaking hands. We're walking around laughing with everybody and being who we are socially. And that's really where people then kind of engage in the, and some events, depending on the person and depending on the drive, will say something like, while you're here, can you tell us a little bit, who do you know that might be interested in buying? I rarely ever say, who do you know? I'll say something about who might have had the fortune of having a baby that might be interested in getting a bigger house, or who do you know just got a promotion that's looking into getting a bigger house, or something along those lines to start that conversation. Nancy and I don't have trouble starting conversation. It's a matter of, is the event just a celebration, or is the event a lead generation event?
Interesting. Do y'all do any follow-up after the event, like a thank you note for coming or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody gets a handwritten thank you card. I think last year we made sure handwritten thank you cards went out. They get at least an email thank you. And then we give a lot of follow-up calls as well. Thank you for coming, or sorry we missed you kind of phone calls.
The sorry we missed yous are just as important. Yeah. So we send a lot of those emails out as well. Man, you missed a good party. Here's what you missed, kind of deal. And we'll send pictures and that kind of stuff, so that they're interested in coming either the next time or at least keeping involved in what's happening next time.
So these are big, maybe not big, but they're fun party, happy atmospheric events, and then a lot of follow-up to continue touching afterwards.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Have you found anything that's kind of anything that you can share besides what you just shared, that if you go back and say these are really, like the top 2 or 3 most important things you've learned in doing these things that make it successful?
I think advertising ahead of time, or getting the word out ahead of time. It seems when we get not lazy, but get busy, and we don't get the word out as early as we need to, and those extra follow-up touches prior to the event is what seems to make the most successsul. We're good at planning and having it catered and doing all the things we need to do, but if we don't get the word out early, we don't have a good attendance.
So what's the timeline? How far out do you start contacting in invitations, and then talk to me about when you start to actually make the personal contacts to make that personal invite?
So the save the date goes out about 6 weeks in advance. And then I think this is the Sarah question, and she's not with us, she's our assistant, but they get touched about once a week after that.
Okay.
They get an email that tells what the event's actually about, and kind of what they can expect, and then just some reminders for RSVP. Go ahead.
And there's a handful. The truth is that you're not going to get everybody. You can't call everybody then, obviously, on the list kind of deal. So you call a couple of key people and make sure that they're coming. You check the RSVPs. Try to get as much RSVPs so that you can plan accordingly. Obviously, the earlier the better. And then just create from there. Create the list that you're going to call, that is. And then when you make those phone calls to them, are you making sure that you're going to make it? And do me a favor, bring somebody along with you. It's like, I can bring somebody, and you're like, I got you on the phone, of course, So it tends to be good in that sense.
We like our neighbors to come as well. We are fortunate enough to live on a farm, and so we don't have next door neighbors. Well, we do, but they're pretty far away. So we like the community to know that we like to do a lot of fundraising for the community. We like to have a lot of community involvement. We support the churches here. All of the churches have ice cream socials in the summer, and we try to go to as many of those as we can, but we get to know the neighbors that way. And then when we have an event, we'll even put a sign up, a big sign in the yard that says everyone's welcome. So it's not just our client event, it's client and people that, we love and want to do business with.
Great.
So
Now,
the events are key for us without question. But I mean, I'm on the phone every day. I get in the office about 7 o'clock. I do script practicing beforehand. I prepare for my day. And at 8 o'clock, I'm on the phone. And I'm on the phone until noon every day, whether I'm doing follow-up, is how I end it, or I'm doing lead generation, calling the people in our database. And it's the relationship building. I wish I could say I was better at it. Some of the times we just switched over a new system and I'm not making as many contacts as I'd like to be making because I'm trying to like fill the system in as I go kind of deal and make it good that sense. But for the most part, it's just keeping in touch with them, whether you're sending them a thank you card or thinking of you card or inviting them to an event or sending them birthday cards. We got a 4-step birthday process. I mean, you get an email, you get a phone call, you get a text messages, and often you'll just get a card as well. So
wow.
I say often.
Yeah.
Cards take a lot of time, and so do the phone calls. So you got to kind of balance your time on what you're doing with it.
Well, if you were to put in, and I'm assuming like these 30 to 50 sales a year that you guys do, are most of those coming from your personal contacts, referreds, or directs?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
they are.
Is there a way, I don't know if this is a fair question, because I know when you're just doing all these relationship things, it's hard to measure and quantify if one is more important than another. But is there a way that you guys have mentally quantified in your mind which are the most important things that you're doing in terms of these reach out events and which are just kind of supporting things? Is that a fair question?
It's a great question. And, I would say that we're just not measuring enough to know
Okay.
that.
I think that I think the phone calling is actually the most important though, because that's something that we can do consistently every day. Now, of course, you don't talk to everybody every day, but the events are kind of a couple of times a year event. And so we're touching them. We try to do them 4 times a year. So we're touching them during that time. But I think a personal one-on-one phone call probably goes the furthest in getting us, repeat business and referral business.
Right.
I kind of upped my game a little bit here recently in regards to the phone calls. It's like I'm setting up appointments nowadays, which I didn't do in the past because I was so focused on business kind of deal. I'm setting appointments just to have coffee with people and trying to set up, so my afternoons are filled with going and have coffee. Now remember, I don't drink coffee. So it's just a matter of getting in front of these people and the conversation. They bring up real estate, which is really, really, enlightening, kind of really cool that they bring it up, so how's business with you? Oh man. And then we can get into it. By the way, anybody that just recently had a kid or maybe a job promotion or those kind of questions come out then. And then the other thing is that we're tapping back into, Nancy and I have been involved in motorcycles. In fact, that's where we met, was at a motorcycle store. I love it.
I love it.
And so
Harley Davidson.
That's my life for 30 years was motorcycles. So we're going back to those people and creating events specifically around motorcycle enthusiasts, and then doing stuff that is, I guess dovetailing in. If there's another event going in, we're definitely going to be there, and we're definitely going to be a figure in the event, and then we're definitely going to be promoting. And it doesn't. I don't ever want to make it sound like we're promoting real estate business. We're simply promoting Tom and Nancy, and then talking about business. And it's a different mindset than what I've always had, or than what I have had that became a grind. In the past, it was how much business can you do? How much business can you do? How much business can you do? And not even being greatly successful at it. And then now going back to just what kind of person do I want to be?
Well, that's the basics in real estate. I was interviewing another friend of mine who's actually here in town, and he's been, selling real estate 25 years, broker. And the cool thing about him is I was asking him, I said, now, what type of marketing do you do? He said, I've never done any marketing. I said, you've never done any advertising? No. He said, I've never spent any money in marketing for business. And so what do you do? He says, I'm just constantly, I'll call people and just say, hey, how's it going? Hey, let's get together. And that's it. He said, that's it. And it's just what you guys are doing. And what's interesting is he has never had a time when he never hit his goals financially. because he, his, just like you guys, God first, family second, business third, and he grows his business to the point that he accomplishes his business goal, so he has time with his family. But it's only about Tony Fiore. It's about a relationship, and that's what you guys are doing. That's what's so beautiful.
There's still lots of room for improvement.
Yes, no, I get that. I want to shift just a little bit. Have you tried things in the past that were an absolute failure? Let me see if I can phrase this the right way. I don't want to say it was an absolute failure and turn someone off from doing that, but maybe it was a failure for you and you know why. In other words, most things out there work for somebody if they're in business. Hopefully they work for somebody. And the question is, have you tried some things that didn't work that you learned from? And is there something you can share with our listeners as to why it didn't work for you, that maybe if someone has a similar situation as you guys, that maybe you can help them understand what works, what doesn't? I don't know if that's a fair question.
I don't know that we have had anything that has just totally failed. We have some things that have been more successful than others. And one thing that happens with us, I don't know if other agents are like this, but we don't consistently use everything that we have available to use, either from lack of time or lack of money. But there was a couple of years when we farmed a market, farmed a neighborhood, and we were successful with that. Well, that kind of went away because we got involved in other types of marketing things. And it wasn't that it wasn't successful, we just haven't done it in the last couple of years. So we could go back to that, but then we probably have to give somewhere else because just lack of time. Probably.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's fair. They would be like open houses. I mean, you can farm a market and definitely build the relationships there and definitely build, I mean, unfortunately, we don't live in a neighborhood, so we can't farm our own neighborhood, which to me lends credibility a little bit in a little bit different way. And then you can grow out from there. If you're moving into or if you're working a neighborhood, you got to find out about the neighborhood. You got to get enough friends. You got to make events that happen in there, and it's always kind of out there. So that would be reason for a decision not to put that much effort into it. And yet there's lots of reasons to put it into it. Another thing that would be something that we have been unsuccessful at following through with, the same with the farming, is open houses. I mean, you have an open house and you've got people that are coming, and all you have to do is set up one appointment at every open house to get a buyer or a seller. It's like, duh, we should be doing that. And at the same sense, it's a weekend job, right? And then you've got to have a follow-up system.
Not wanting to work weekends.
That
you
makes
got to have
sense.
a follow-up system. I think that ideally, if I was to lay out my open house on Tuesday, I'd put arrows out and start the marketing on it. On Friday, I'd put, gobs, somewhere around 20 different signs out. And then on Saturday or Sunday, have open houses that would be 2 hours long. And, make an event out of that and making sure that we've got follow-up systems to that. And we just don't do that.
Well, and that's why open houses are such a great way for new agents to start their business, because they have time. I've always said, what do we have, more time or more money, to invest into a certain marketing thing that we're going to do for, that time period in our business. And if you don't have any money and you're new and you don't have any clients, open houses are definitely the best way to go. But we actually have more money than we have time right now.
That's a good place to be in.
I don't seem to have either right now.
Well,
You're listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. To increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence or from a geographic farm, learn about Agent Dominator. We guarantee your sales in writing or give your money back. To learn more, visit our website at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator from the menu. And now, back to the podcast.
yeah, it doesn't always feel like we have more money, but at the moment we definitely have more money than we have time.
I totally get it. Well, I think it goes back to the parameters that you guys mentioned in terms of, you set the parameters and you operate within it, and open houses violates the parameter if we don't work on weekends.
Right.
So, hey, speaking of those parameters, I want to go back if we can. So you have a hierarchy: God, family, business. Talk a little bit more about that. I want to talk a little bit about just that whole balance and those parameters. I don't have a specific question yet, but can you maybe give me some of your thoughts and what you do and how firm those parameters are? Just kind of craft what's going on with you on that.
Well, this business can lead you astray easily if you let it. You know, you can get so wrapped up in making money or pleasing the clients, and you can take your eyes off what's really important, which is pleasing God. And saying yes to a client isn't always the best thing for them or you. And so I think if you go back to, you know, kind of the old bracelets we used to wear, what would Jesus do? You know, sometimes you have to say no for whatever reason. And clients don't like to be told no, and usually you'll lose business in that situation. But that's something that, you know, is important to us. When we go to a listing appointment, we talk before we go, and you know, is this a house that we want to list? And, you know, but what are the criteria in which we're willing to take this? You know, we're not willing to compromise our values. We're not willing to be dishonest. We're not willing to just be at the beck and call of our clients, knowing that that's not best for them or us. We're not going to serve them well if, you know, we're at their beck and call 24/7. Does that make sense?
We're not their babysitter. I mean, and so Nancy and I just come from a place of knowing. Faith and hope is clearly there for us. So we know that there's a higher power. That one happens to be Jesus Christ, as we know and love him, and he shows up for us. He's showed up for us in the past, and he's showing up for us daily. And whether we're saying a prayer before we go into a listing appointment, or we're saying a prayer at the listing appointment, or we're just making sure that when we start our day that we're grounded in the Word, or in a meditative state where we know that, you know, we're covered.
Right. Hey, let me talk on that, because different people bring their relationship with Christ into their business in different ways. When you do your real estate business and you're interacting with clients, do you do anything that I'll call it just overtly Christian? Let me see if this makes sense. When we were looking to buy our house, and we were putting the offer, writing out the offer on it, you know, my realtor, who's a Christian, said, well, let's pray over this. And we prayed. Okay. Do you guys do anything like that with your clients at all?
Absolutely. We don't like to go in talking about, you know, being Christian, because sometimes people can oversell and underdeliver. And I think we'd rather overdeliver and undersell. So we try to let that show up in who we are and not what we say. After most listing appointments, Tom just very casually says, is it okay if we say a prayer? He says it just like that. And have we had anybody say no ever? I don't think we have.
We've picked up cues along the way. I mean, you know, they
Right.
got a cross hanging above their bed or something. I mean, it's you pick up cues along the way. But I don't know about you, but I have been turned off by plenty of people that profess to be Christians, and they're the first ones to start like pushing and shoving and lying and cheating.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, man. So we don't go in there with, you know, a Christian tone. We go in there with a humble tone, and then go from there. Like I said, like Nancy just said, the opportunity presents itself to say prayer. Is it okay? It's always a question.
Mm-hmm.
And how did the clients respond to that?
I mean, I think the majority, I can't remember anybody that's actually said no. Most people are very excited. You know, they realize then that these are probably some pretty sincere people that want to pray for us and really are concerned about what goes on with this transaction, whether we list their house or not, and whether we sell their house or not. You know, they're getting a feeling for us through prayer and our actions that we're the type of people that are going to have their back, even if it doesn't turn out to be a sale.
I love it. In what other ways, I'd love to find out, if you don't mind sharing, just a little bit more, maybe your relationship with Christ and how you feel it's kind of impacted what you do in real estate. Can you share something on that?
I'm a recovering Catholic. And what I mean by that is, you know, we went to church as a family because the least we could do. I just remember Mom saying something. In fact, the least you could do is give God an hour a week. And I went through catechism and confirmation and communion and all of the sacraments, Catholic, and when I separated from that, and I needed some stability, I knew that I could go back to the Catholic Church and get that. And yet, when I needed a personal relationship, I didn't have that. And I'm also a recovering alcoholic, and so in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I found Jesus. Now, he showed up differently for me than he did for many other people, but I just developed a personal relationship at that point. So that's just kind of my baseline. So if I've got that personal relationship, as a result of my connection, the things that I do, and I don't mean the overt things that I do for other people, in regards to my communication, my prayers in the morning, my meditation in the morning, my gratitudes throughout the day. I've got reminders that pop up on my phone that says it's time for gratitude. And those are the things that keep me connected to the Spirit, keep me connected to Jesus, and go from there. And Nancy's similar. We read the Bible, and we go to Bible study, and we help out at church, and we do mission work, and we do this, but we don't do that to earn glory or to earn favor. We do that because that's serving.
Right. Talk to me. This is really interesting. You mentioned relationship. A lot of times, people think about Christian as a religion. What religion are you? I'm Christian. Things of that sort. In your mind, you use the word relationship a couple of times. What does that mean to you, and why are you using that in this context? Help me understand that.
Wow.
Because he saved me.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
I mean,
so my life is not been a smooth sailing. They say the road to paradise is not smooth, and mine has been hellish. I mean, I've had whether it was childhood diseases that I was able to work through, or that Jesus pulled me through, or whether it was an illness that removed me. I had a corporate profile job, and I'm moving up in it, and I get disabled, and I'm not able to go there. And I think it's what I do that's going to make it better. And then I make it to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm pulled from the need to satisfy others so that I can get that paycheck or that notoriety or whatnot. And then I'd like to say that, that recovery at that point was perfect for me. No more drugs and alcohol. But the truth is that I found internet pornography addiction, and I needed to work the steps on that. And as a result of that, unfortunately, I lost my first marriage. And the way that was kind of hammered on me, it can have a real negative connotation in society and with my former wife. And I had my faith at that point. And so, I mean, I look back. And I know he's with me. And that's, and I can't, whether it's Nancy and I, or whether it's another close friend or somebody that I work with, I know what teamwork is. And it's not because of what I do, it's because of what we do. And I have a relationship with Christ the same way. It's not because of what I do, and not just because of what he does. It's what we do together, and that's the relationship.
That's really neat. In terms of that relationship, I'm trying to, I've got it kind of pictured in my mind's eye what I want to ask, and then I'm trying to formulate it into a question. So someone's listening to this call, they're going through challenges, and they pray. They've gone to church. None of that really, it's not clicking. It just doesn't seem to be, quote unquote, working. They check off the little list. What is different between what you did in going to church and doing catechism and those things, and this thing you call a relationship? Help me understand, or that person that may be listening, what's the difference between relationship and these things that we call, doing the Christian thing? Is that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not a checklist. You can't check the list and say, I went to church and I read my Bible and I prayed, so why isn't my life happier or better, whatever it is they're looking for? I mean, that's not how you have a relationship with another person. you don't check off the boxes. Well, I called so-and-so today and I met them for lunch. So, we should be really tight now. You have to think of it that way. A relationship is a one-on-one ongoing experience with another person. And that person is Jesus. And he is better than most of your friends because he's always there and he forgives so quickly and so easily. I think a lot of people come to faith when they've hit bottom. And he's standing there waiting, and he wants to help you up and pull you up. And I don't know really how to tell people to, get to that place where they're surrendering everything to him, but that really is the only answer. You're probably going to do it, meaning surrender everything to him. You can do it now or you can do it later. Most people like to go through a lot of pain before they do it. And
So they don't like to, they just end up there.
Well, they don't like it, but they do it. So if you can do that, sometime in your life, if you're tired of going through the pain, or maybe you're not in a lot of pain now, you will be. It's coming. That is something that being a believer, being a Christian doesn't mean that you're not going to have troubles. It means that God's going to get you through those. And the sooner you learn that, I think the happier that you'll be. Just having that solid foundation to turn back to, as opposed to what do I do now? And that trying to help yourself, it just doesn't work.
I think the relationship with Christ, for me, is developed in two primary ways. And the first one is in nature. I can't look around me and think that there isn't something greater creating us. I mean, we're in a change of seasons right now. The leaves will be changing colors, and then they'll go into winter, and then, oh my heavens, spring comes, and you're like, well, of course he's going to put spring after winter, because it's just, and I say he put it there because I believe it was created by him. And so I can just watch around me. It doesn't mean I like all of the seasons. Frankly, I don't even like spring, but it sure does bring out beauty, and I appreciate that. And the other thing, so in nature I see that, but I see it in people as well too, the relationship. I have, this has been a 25-year road for me to get to this point. And that's not 25 years old. That's 25 years when I met Christ in that relationship way. And like my sister turned me on to a book, The Time for Joy, which is in scrap pages nowadays, but I still read it, not every day as much as I used to, but I read it. I read it this morning again, and it's just a meditation. And then, 8 or 10 years ago, another friend gave me a book by Derek. It's kind of my Bible leader book. I can't think of the name. Derek Prince, thank you. And then, of course, I got a recovery Bible from somebody else, and I got in business, I was handed a journal, and said, how are you going to put God first? Let's start writing about it when you go to bed and be grateful. And in recovery, in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, they encourage prayer and meditation. They encourage a relationship with God. And, so all of the friends that I met in that sense, and every Thursday night for the past 8 years, I've been, in a men's meeting, which started out at a church. We've been through several different churches, and it's clearly Christian driven. We just call ourselves the prodigals at this point. And there's just a topic where men from 36 years old to 84 years old are getting together and talking. And in that, Christ shows up. And in that, the relationship's built. I mean, we cry together, we laugh together, and there's not a meeting that goes by that you don't know that there's a presence of God there. So
that's really neat. I love what you were saying, Nancy. Sometimes you're going to go through tough times. And I was thinking, I just did one of our podcasts that's actually, it'll be coming out before this one, but I've already recorded it by the time we're doing this interview. And it's talking about the Israelites going through the wilderness, coming out of Egypt. And it seems like they always put themselves into a position. God takes them to a position of dry point, okay, where there's no water. And they always wait till they're about dying of thirst. They start complaining to God, and God shows up with their answer. But what hit me reading it is God would have given them the answer if they just asked God a lot early before they got to that point of
Exactly.
desperation.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, true.
I think sometimes we wait until it's unbearable, and that's when we seek the Lord and cry on the Lord, and yet Jesus said, "I came that you might have life abundantly right now," and all we have to do is just kind of seek Him right now. Let me ask you a question on that, because you guys have gone through a lot of struggles, I know, and if you were to look at your life now. I know there's still probably struggles. And if you look at your life 10 or 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, or maybe a little bit further back when your relationship with the Lord wasn't as strong. And I'm just looking at the life with the relationship with the Lord now versus where the relationship was a lot less. Are the struggles significantly different? In other words, now that you have a great relationship with the Lord, is the struggle or a stronger relation, is the struggle a lot less in terms of things hitting you than it was earlier, or is the struggle level about the same? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's about the same.
Struggle's about the same.
What is the response to the struggle? Okay, the joy in the struggle. Help me now. The struggles are about the same now with the relationship being more mature versus not really pursuing it. What's the difference?
Sometimes when something disastrous happens, your first response is to panic and, hit despair. And, having this guy here that just says to me, we need to say a prayer right now. And God's not going to leave us now. He hasn't so far. And it's just really in, a matter of a couple minutes, you can take a few deep breaths, you can say a prayer and come back to He's going to get us through this. Whereas I think years ago, you rely on your own, like, what can I do to get through this? And sometimes you can't. I mean, there are sometimes it's up to you to do the next right thing, but often it's not in our hands. The things that are really, hurting us and bothering us are totally out of our control. And that's what you come to realize in a close relationship with God, is that He's in control. And hearing our prayers is the most important thing we can do now. We don't need to try to fix it. Either we can't or it's completely out of our hands.
There's, so there has to be a physiology shift, and that can be like breath work. Breath work to me has always been extremely important because, like, breathing happens without me thinking about it. And yet when I think about breath work, to me, it's a connection with everything else. I mean, I exhale carbon dioxide and the trees inhale it. The trees exhale oxygen and I inhale that. And so there's a definite connection there with that stuff. So it's a conscious, I'm breathing and I'm kind of counting, or I'm feeling the chest rise and lower. So there's a physiology that happens with it. And then there's also an anchoring opportunity. So for me, I have an anchor that when things don't get good, I can just anchor, and it'll pull me back into those thoughts of when I was blessed, or feelings of blessings, or feelings of abundance or whatnot. And I can just anchor into that and recognize that that's good. So there's a physiology that starts. And then there's the it's all about mindset. Mindset has got to be 90% of it all. And if we're talking about God, and we're talking about gratitude, and we're talking about abundance, and the proverbial fan gets hit with life, we can go with talking about the proverbial fan and the stuff that's flying, or we can talk about the good things. That at the office, there's a saying that your thoughts eavesdrop on your words. And so if you're going to be talking about the thwant that are not favorable, then that's where you're going to be hanging on. That's what you're going to find support in. If you're talking about things that are, I want to use the word good, but that's way too general. Things that are of abundance, things that are of joy, things that are of Christ, things that are of life, things that are of relationship, then it's certain to go in that way. And Christ shows up.
I love the mindset. When you mentioned that, my mind went back to Romans 8 with Paul. He says the mindset on the flesh is death, but the mindset on the spirit is life and peace. And where we set our mind is the outcome we get.
Right.
And Uh, and not long ago, we were going through some challenges, and my son is very wise in the spirit. And we were talking about these different things. And he said, Dad, the battle is won in the spirit before it's won in the natural. And, that's so true. And, God is a God of patterns. And he has a pattern, and he keeps repeating that pattern. And the one pattern that you guys have seen in your life, I've seen in mine, and that is that God takes care of you. God takes care of you as you seek and follow him. In fact,
Mhm.
I would probably suggest, without knowing the inner workings of your business, that if you were to look back over the life of your business, that all the big wins and transactions and revenues that covered all your expenses probably were things that God brought to you that you didn't really work.
You're
You did
probably right.
yeah,
I would almost guarantee it. Yeah.
it's a pattern. And because of that pattern, we can live in joy in the midst of the struggles that come our way, because we always are in struggles. The question is, do we try to rely on ourselves to solve them, or rely on the Lord? And the pattern with the Lord is he always handles it for those who love him and who follow him. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the big takeaway I'm getting with you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, well, this has been really neat. I've enjoyed this. Um, is there anything else as we start to wrap up? Is there anything else you'd like to share? Uh, Business, spiritually, a combination, or anything else that um, before we wrap up the call?
Tom's reading his notes.
No, I'm not. I'm
He's a
in
note.
contemplation.
Oh.
There's two things that come to mind. First of all, in watching videos and in watching and reading other people's real estate businesses and do this, do that, do this, do that, I've put other people on pedestals and um, and like envy. Maybe envy is a word that might fit it as well. But I want to be like them, or how come I can't do that, or what's that not happening? And when Nancy and I sit here like this, I don't ever want to be thought of as the guy that has the answers, because we struggle day in and day out. But we've got the answer of relying on a power greater than ourselves, and we know that if we just get up in the morning and put our best foot forward, that the answers come. And as long as our house is in order, as we say in the rooms, and so it's there's struggle and there's pain and there's loss and there's reward, and life is clearly way more abundant now than it was before. So don't do what I did, and yet do what I did. But don't think of Nancy and I as any better or worse than. We're just on the same path, going in the same direction, doing things at a little different speed than you are, because everybody is on the path. And everybody.
I like that.
And the other thought is some of the things just kind of along those same lines. Some of the things that was said here by what you've read and what Nancy and I have come up with in the moment, as we said a prayer before we started this. I think this is a good podcast, and I'm looking forward to listening to those two people, because they got some good stuff to say.
Well, y'all are definitely just an amazing couple. Anything from you, Nancy? Not trying to put you on the spot, but anything that's on mind before we wrap it up?
No, I just, for me, the most important thing is to have Tom as a leader of our family. And he continues to do that. He leads our company, he leads our family, and that's important to me. I hope to retire someday, sooner than he does. And it's just nice to know that the person leading our company and leading our life is a man of God.
Absolutely. There's another passage that says, wives, be submissive to your husbands as Christ is as the church is to Christ. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church. And the picture that I got was this. In the Christ-centered form of marriage, the husband is the covering of the family, and it's the husband's responsibility to take care of the family, right? Ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
And as the bride of Christ, all of us make up the bride of Christ. He is our husband, and we can trust him to cover us and trust him to provide for us. And it hit me as I was reading through this, and the Spirit just kind of spoke this to me. At least I believe it was the Spirit that said, "You can trust me too, Beatty. I'm your husband, and you don't have to worry about all of these decisions. Just follow the leading I give you, and leave it all up to me." And it's just really freeing.
Yep.
So it's wonderful to have a man of God as your husband to just follow and lead your family. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beatty.
All right. Well, as we wrap this up, if you do like this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it, and you'll get a lot more. Be sure to like us on iTunes and YouTube, and learn more about us and how to grow your business and how to grow spiritually if you want at our website at getsellerscallingyou.com. Thanks, everyone. Y'all have a great day. If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it so you never miss another episode. And please like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. Also, if you want to increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence, dominate a geographic farm, or convert home valuation leads, check out our Agent Dominator program. We create custom content that differentiates you from other realtors, then use it to keep you top of mind with your prospects with postcards, targeted Facebook ads, email campaigns, video interviews, and more. And the best part is we guarantee your sales or give all your money back. Learn more at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator in the menu. Thanks for listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. Have a great day.